cloud. All right, so Saturday, July the 1st, and I realized I didn't think before, but this is the weekend for July the 4th is a holiday, so I would imagine a lot of people traveling, including my kids. They're coming for visiting. Yay! After I bribed them saying, hey, mommy's cooking this weekend. So they are coming.
Mom's guilt works too.
Uh,
A little bit of guilt on them.
yeah. Guys in my chat, what can you see?
Just science and spirituality.
Okay, there we go. That's what it is. So July the 1st. And as usual, let me know if you can hear the prayer. So just to harmonize our energy and thoughts, and let's elevate our thoughts and think about our spiritual guides. Think about the higher realms and listen to this meditation from Suzanne Wilson. Can you hear that?
Oh.
Not yet.
No?
Anna, no.
Oh, okay. Let me stop, Suzanne.
Share again.
Let me share again, because perhaps this time I didn't share with the sound. And there you go.
Okay.
Sit upright in a chair, both feet on the floor. Yoga students may prefer the half lotus position, or you may need to lie down with a pillow under your knees to support your back. Let your hands rest in your lap, palms facing up. Close your eyes and mouth and breathe gently through your nose. With each inhale, visualize white light entering your body. And as you exhale, let all your breath out slowly, breathing in white light and breathing out all stress, anxiety, letting it go. Simply be in the now, the present, this very Divine Source. Thank you for blessing me with this day, with my life and all my many blessings. Thank you for giving me another day to be of service in this life and in this body. I ask that you cleanse me in divine white light, erasing all energy that does not belong in my auric field. Surround me in a beautiful, translucent, golden bubble of protection that is bathed in your divine white light, sealing in all my positive energies and good health, sealing out all negative energies, all ill health, all entities from lower realms, and I send white light to the lower realms, so that only peace, love, and protection may enter in. I give gratitude for my spiritual team, spirit guides, angels, and my loved ones in the light. I send this light out to each of my loved ones on both the physical plane and the spiritual plane. I send this light out to all those in need of a physical, emotional, or spiritual healing. I connect with universal consciousness. I connect with all beings who are in meditation at this moment. I am eternal. I am one with Divine Source. I am one with all. Compassion guides all my thoughts, words, actions, and I trust that I will complete my greater work before I transition to heavenly home. With gratitude and joy, I am a child of God. And so it is.
Oops. All right, so I love this meditation. I really love. And I hope I can complete my greater work before I make the transition. I really do. So just a quick reminder, next time that we meet to talk about this Spiritual Realm series from André Luiz, we'll be talking about the messengers. So Luis, Leda, Maria, and I will put something together, and then we will talk about this book. If you didn't read the book, that's okay. If you happen to read the book, then awesome. So you can ask questions or, make comments and participate as well. But the intent is to talk about all these books over here, 13. Okay, so I mentioned to you guys that I am reading, actually I read this book and there is no translation. I think we didn't find any translation, but I said, okay, so if there is no translation, then I will bring some of the nice things or things that made me think from this book. As I mentioned to you, this book is actually a combination of messages that were received from Chico Xavier and or Chico Xavier, if you will, and another medium, very powerful medium that was like she lived about the same time as Chico, and her name was Yvonne do Amaral Pereira. She was very powerful, and she's considered like a medium as powerful as Chico. Evidently, she didn't do all the books and stuff, but I believe it's like when the spirits say, if one guy fail in his mission, it's fine because they have somebody else to take charge of that mission. So perhaps Yvonne was another candidate, who knows, but she was a very powerful one as well. And then this guy Edson Carneiro, he coordinated this work and put all this messengers together. So basically it talks about Mary, but evidently as it talks about Mary, then talks about Jesus and John of Baptist, yeah, and other people that is mentioned in the Bible. But today I brought this because it made me think, and I had some questions in my mind, And I like, Luis to make some comments on it. But the topic is about Jesus, a dialogue between Jesus and Mary. So, and Mary, in this book, so Mary is talking to her cousin Isabel about their kids. They were small, and so the two cousins, they met and they were talking as mothers. They were talking about their children. And then Mary, evidently Isabel as well, they were talking about their fears and their concerns, because evidently they knew their children, they were different. So, and they feared for them. So, and then Mary said, mentioned something, something that happened. Not I will just, shorten, because we do not have a whole lot of time, but so Mary talked about something that Jesus was doing that day, and then she was talking about, how concerned she was, and she talked to Joseph about her fears and concerns, and evidently Jesus noticed that, he heard. So then Mary said to Isabel, Jesus approached me in the morning and said to me, Mom, what do you want from me? Have I not witnessed my communion with the Father who is in heaven? So she was talking about, him talking to doctors, talking to other people, like his science was not from, and his knowledge was not from this world. And then he said, what do you want from me? Have I not witnessed my communion with the Father? So Mary continues, highly surprised by his question, I replied. Remember, this is a kid. This is not an adult talk. This is not Jesus adult. This is somebody who is, under the 18th. So highly surprised by his question, I replied, I care for you, my son. I recognize that you need a better preparation for life. So here is very interesting, because it's showing a mother, like any other, a mother that is concerned about her son well-being, and how he will survive and make for his life, right? So it's very, very, very interesting, because I completely relate to that. As a mother, we all do, right? So, and then she said, but as if he had full knowledge of what was going on inside me, he pondered, Mom, all the useful and generous preparation in the world is precious. However, I am with God. I do not know if she realized what he meant when he said, I am already with God. I guess my understanding, he was talking about the way that he was so elevated, he was so high level being, that he was much closer to God than us. So he said, I am already with God. My Father, however, wants us to exemplify all that is good, and I will choose in this way the best choice. That is interesting, because he's talking about, even somebody so elevated like Jesus, he had choices to make like any other, like any of us. He had choices to make. So she continued, on the same day, although he knew about the beautiful promises that the temple doctors made in his presence about him, Jesus approached Joseph and humbly asked him to admit to his work. Since then, as if he wanted to teach us that the best school for God is that of the home and that of self-effort. He prefers the wood in the workshop, wields the hammer and the hoe, filling the house with the spirit with his sweet happiness. So this is just showing, a mother that is like any other. And even though she knew he was different, she was aware, she was told that this kid was supposed to be the savior. So she knew all of that, but still she was concerned about his well-being, and like any other earth mother, right? So and then there's another one. There is another topic that I'd like to mention here, is about what happened when Jesus was born. So in the Old Testament, there is this prophecy from Micah saying that, the day Jesus or the king of Judah was supposed to be born, a star would show up in the sky, etc. So then later on, we see the New Testament, the three wizard kings in their search for Jesus. So they were asking, as soon as they saw the star, so they start their journey searching for Jesus, and they were asking, where is the born king of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and came to worship him. And that caught my attention because wizard kings, so we know that they were highly educated people. They knew a lot of things they were very knowledgeable on science and all the social political issues happening in their time, right? So they were not naive people. They were very educated people. They knew, for example, how to decipher, how to interpret prophecies. So but still, instead of looking for Jesus in a low profile style, they were asking people around, where is the born king of Jews? As if the population of that time, meaning, I want to say, the majority, 80%, 90%, 95%, who knows? The majority of that people at that time, they didn't know how to read. So how would they know better about prophecies? So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Just a second. Do not.
Okay.
No. Just a second. So so they were asking those questions. So as they did ask those questions, they a lot of people became aware of what was going on. who were those strangers coming from the east asking for a new boy king? So evidently, Herod became aware of that search, right? So as he became aware of that search, so it says in this book over here that Herod called or summoned the three wizard kings to his presence to ask some questions. So so they showed up, and then they talked to Herod, and Herod was asking, okay, so what exactly you guys are doing? And then they explained to him, and then he said, oh, okay, so in this case, whenever you guys found him, come back here and let me know so I can worship the boy as well. Evidently, this was not his intention, but, the three wizard kings, they just continued their search, and they found, evidently, the Jesus. But after that, they had a dream when they were told that they should not come back to Herod, evidently. So 2 years after, or about 2 years, Herod then realized that those guys, they didn't or anyway, they didn't come back, and that they're not coming back anyway. So he did some quick calculations, and then he ordered the execution of all male children who were like 2 years old and under, which is, according to the Jeremiah prophecy, pretty much what was supposed to happen. Now, and this is my question to Luis, because in this case, yeah, we have a prophecy saying, a lot of people, a lot of sorrow because of, what happened in Bethlehem due to the children execution. But we know prophecies, they are not meant to be a reality 100%. They are meant to be a highly possible scenario, but not necessarily, they are not meant to be destiny, right? So this is Jeremiah prophecy. On the other hand, we have three wizard kings that, knowing better about the situation of their time, still with their questions, they were exposing not only Jesus, because now Jesus and his family, they had to hide away for the whole life, right? So it was not about the birthday, but then they had to hide away, for years. And then also with those questions, they kind of helped with this scenario of many children losing their lives because of, those questions, which is weird because that was in the advent of Jesus' birthday. The guy that was coming to earth to give us life. But then what happened is death, a lot of children being killed. So my question, Luis, is what is really the purpose or the higher purpose here? Because evidently the spiritual realm, they had their agenda. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had a plan. So from the spiritual perspective, how to understand, how to interpret, what happened, because you know, really, was that necessary for the children to die? How come smart guys does expose at a large scale somebody that was so precious? I mean, today, if somebody tells me, you know, Jesus is gonna, you know, he will be back, I will be under low profile. So, Luis, would you please comment on that?
I think Leda wants to speak first.
No, go ahead. I'll speak later.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, this is such a very important question you just brought up to us, because as soccer players used to say here in Brazil, we roll the ball that can make us score several goals. And first and foremost, I think when it comes to Jesus Christ's mission, many things had to happen for the prophecies to be fulfilled as a sign of what he came to do here. And many times Jesus himself said, I do this so that the prophecies are fulfilled. Of course, there is a karmic situation for those children and those parents who lost their children. Of course, this is undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, that's a great lesson of spirituality versus love. We can be very wise. We can be astrologers like those wise men, wizards, king wizards, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we can lack the attunement with the higher spheres, which is based on love.
Mm.
And everyone that was around Jesus Christ, that was, you know, was in this sphere of love. And it's a great lesson, because we may be considered very good at spirituality, at Spiritism, for example, but we can lack love. And so imagine the situation, right? I know many of us can believe that Jesus was just one among several other good prophets.
Mm-hmm.
But supposedly, as I believe, right, that he is the one, he is the boss, he's the head cheese of all prophets, as he used to say, as he claimed to say that he and his father, right, and God was, you know, unique. And so imagine a person like that. I remember Jesus Christ writing, or no, he didn't write, he said that before leaving the planet, he says, God, the Father, give me the glory I had before this world existed. So it's such an old soul. And we have spirit guides for streets, spirit guides for cities, spirit guides for countries, the prince of each country. Why not to have the prince of earth? But when we admit this, we admit a code, right? A very high moral code, which is very difficult for us to admit because it makes us feel humble. But that's why humility is one of the tools for us to admit that, you know. So, meaning my thoughts, okay? Jesus clarified and established the law of love on the country and on the planet. But the prince of this world, as he says, no. So the wise, not necessarily were loving men, the wise men, the wizards. And only true love can keep our attunement with the higher realms. And I can give you an example of Chico Xavier and another guy here in Belo Horizonte. There was a guy that came from another state. He was, I think he had tuberculosis. I don't know, he was sick. And he came down here. I think he was healed by Chico Xavier, right? And but he had a family, about 4 or 5 kids. I knew him personally, very nice person. And he came in a time that there were too few jobs in Belo Horizonte, in this town here. And a spiritist professor, an emeritus spiritist professor, came up to him and said, Chico, a spirit came through our mediumistic circle, and he's inviting you, not Chico, his name was Martins Peralva, Mr. Peralva. He said to Peralva, this professor said to him, Peralva, come to work with us in our school. It's going to be a kind of a spiritist school in a city near Belo Horizonte, right, in the nearby area. Pay attention, you are jobless, you are unemployed, you have a family, and it was a great place. It was a spirit coming through a meeting that was inviting him for that. Why not, right? But before that, he went to visit Chico Xavier because he worked with Chico Xavier.
Mhm.
And he didn't say anything about that, but Chico Xavier said, because, as he usually did, right? He cited the full name of a guy. I don't remember his name. For example, Peralva, Mr. Peralva. There's a guy here. He's a blonde guy from the Spiritist movement of your state, Sergipe. His name is blah, 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 blah. Of course, Peralva, right?
Mhm.
Backed away. And he's saying that your vocation is Spiritism.
Mhm.
And Peralva, right? So it dawned on him that he wouldn't have to accept the commercial invitation from a spirit of another museum, but he preferred to stay with Chico Xavier. And later on, he did a great work of Spiritism, the whole state of Minas Gerais, being the vice president of the Mineira Union Spiritist, right? And with lots of, he published lots of works. And maybe if he had accepted that very nice invitation. So what I mean here is there is a spirituality and a spirituality.
Mhm.
And spirituality of a high level with this one, with these guys who are Christic followers, it's very hard. But as Jesus says in the Revelation book, right? I knock on your door, but let me tell you something. I reprimand those who I love. And those who can stand this, this kind of discipline, they get there, just like Chico Xavier. So this is beautiful. I think that's the problem. The guys were wise. They were astrologers, maybe spiritualists of today's, of our days, or spiritists of our days. But if you lack this high ethical level that we have to search and make very strong efforts to acquire, of course, our attunement may not be so flawless. You understand?
Mhm.
So I think
Yeah,
that's the explanation.
that's
And you are an instrument of karma. Right?
exactly,
You end up being an
exactly.
instrument of karma.
Yeah, that's very nice. What you said, because just making a reference to the topic right before this one, when Jesus, despite the fact that he knew all the doctors mentioned beautiful things about him, and told him, made a lot of promise about his future as a doctor of the temple, etc., etc. Yet he chose a humble job.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
And yes,
So
and he didn't connect himself with the politicians to spread the word, right?
So he chose the heart, not the intellect.
Yes. Because his first lesson was relationship, love and relationship. Spirituality, he said, in the future, I will send the consoler, right? To say everything I cannot say to you because you can't bear. And really, now we have quantum physics, for example, to give us a scientific basis to rationally approach spirituality. But Jesus Christ could never speak about that, about those sciences to his disciples, right?
Yeah, yes, and in a small example, I see that Chico Xavier himself was surrounded by mediums and spiritualists or spiritist mediums, that didn't understand his approach of love of Christianism, and they really were instrument of proof to him and brought him many sufferings, many proofs, because they didn't understand his approach. They thought they were excessively humble, excessively loving, excessively caring person, and thought they couldn't get more of this. He doesn't want, why not? And they let him to have many proofs.
He suffered a lot, even with spiritists here in Brazil.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
This is a small example. Imagine Jesus.
So before leaving it to Leda, I was searching here now while you're speaking, Jesus Christ saying in John 12:40, he says, he was citing, I think, Isaiah. He has blinded their eyes and hardened their heart, that they should not see with their eyes, nor understand with their heart, and be converted, and I should heal them. So Jesus is talking about karma, about these religious people that are born and they never learn. They become intellectually religious. They become stars of religion, but they don't learn love, right? So Jesus is saying that Isaiah was talking about them in the past, say, their heart will be hardened, their eyes will be blinded, and they won't be able to be saved by understanding what I have come to do, right? So this is the same thing. It's a prophecy. Yeah.
The constant heart and mind balance. Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Luis. Leda, please.
I think Giles wanted to say something first, didn't you, Giles? Is he there?
Yeah, he's saying no.
No? Okay. And I just wanted to say that our planet is called, as Luis was saying, our planet is a world of test and atonement, right? So when Jesus came, it was a very dark place to be. We didn't care for those who were sick. We didn't care for those who were poor. We didn't care for those who were weak at all. So I think this reaction of the reaction of the presence of such a light here, because Jesus is the governor of our planet. He is the most evolved spirit that we had contact on Earth. So the reaction of the dark side, let's put it that way, was a big one. So it was not just one king that wanted his place. Is the whole dark world that was reacting to someone trying to bring the light of love to our planet. So I think this was a way that they showed their power, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they would use any and all that would contribute to just show, like you said, show their power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was one of the prices that we had to pay, but there were many others for thousands of years. You know, everybody who tries to talk about the truth and love is always crashed by this very materialized and primitive spirits that are they are stick on just the selfishness that they carry, you know.
Yeah.
And it's starting to change now after 2000 years of Jesus coming here. It's starting to change, but it's still very strong. The power of money and strength and the power of the dark is still very
Yeah.
big.
It is like, I like this analogy. It is like when you are in a dark pitch night, you know, and then you light up a candle, or, you know, turn on a lamp. What's going to happen? You know, a lot of insects will just, right? So yeah, so the dark spirits, they will see it and they will try to turn off that light at all, but they will use everything. They will try.
And probably they have put it against him at some point, even in the spiritual world. They probably have got to him and said, look what your presence, what is causing to her.
Mhm.
Right? Probably that was one of the things that they opposed him, even when he was in the desert there with the dark spirits there, right?
Yeah, in this book, as a matter of fact, it says that Jesus and John the Baptist, they, as children, as kids, they were talking to each other, but the mothers or the people around, they were not necessarily following what exactly they were talking. But the mothers, they mentioned they were concerned, and they mentioned, you know, that their expression were not like just children. They were more like concerned adults and talking about serious stuff, you know, things that sometimes they were not following. So meaning they knew what was ahead of them.
Yeah,
or at least their heart, they knew something was coming, right?
the spirit, when it's a very high spirit and evolved spirit, it comes above all this things like age and stuff like that, right? And they had the vision of the bigger picture of the spirituality, the real spirituality, and they knew that Earth had to have this start, this big start, because it was a very a place of a lot of suffering for us, much more than this.
Yeah, and what I like about when Mary said, you know, then Jesus, despite knowing all the beautiful things and promises, etc., he chose to work with Joseph in his humble workshop as a carpenter. And I like knowing that even someone like Jesus didn't have a written book in front of him, like yet he had to think and make choices and choose the right thing. So imagine us. Right? Sorry, Lynn, we were talking too much. Yeah, go ahead, please.
No, I mean, there's many concepts here. I mean, Jesus, the messenger of love, we all know about the concept. We live in a universe. This planet was chosen to be the toughest school regarding all the mental and physical challenges, and to advance our spirituality, whether it be all the forms of love, forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, etc. But there's several things here that need to be looked at closer. These, as Lewis pointed out, Chico went for the heart. The heart's got to be first, or else the intellect suffers. You have to have the heart. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And you look at one thing it's not talked about, a dark trait. Jesus, Chico, and all these other people that had these great powers, envy, jealousy. That's a big factor that comes into it regarding trying to undermine these messengers, etc. And they don't talk about it as much as far as the ones around them who had some vested power. They had great envy and jealousy, and that's not talked about as much, to try and undermine these individuals. I think about it, and I think of all the traits, our spirituality that we need to learn in this toughest school. We know all the forms of love. We know compassion, gratitude, but I really analyzed this the last few months. Forgiveness is the tough one. I find forgiveness to be the tough one. I'll give you a tiny example. My own son, one of my sons, I just got back from Vermont visiting him. He's gone through a very difficult divorce the last couple of years. And we're sitting there, as parents do, and watching one of our grandsons play soccer. And I'm looking at him and I say, his name is James. He says, it's forgiveness. That's the hard one. That really is. We have love. We're loving people. We know the various forms of love, gratitude, compassion, but it's the forgiveness, I think, in my mind and experience, is really the tough one. And that takes a lot of spiritual discipline, I would say, in all that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yep. Luis, please. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you,
Very
Len,
good point.
because we couldn't agree more. This is Chico Xavier used to say that's why that was the last lesson Jesus wanted to apply when he was on the cross, right?
Yep.
Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And
by the way, and Jesus didn't say, I forgive you. He asked
God to forgive.
God to forgive.
Yes, and he said also, Chico Xavier said also once that, learn how to forgive and solve your spiritual problem for eternity.
Yes.
So Lynn has a point, a very important one, because this is
Finito with karma. If you,
I
short,
turned to my son Jamie as we're watching my grandson play soccer, and I said, Jamie, it's forgiveness. I know it's hard. This is very difficult. He's a very loving soul. We're all very loving souls, the gratitude, compassion, but it's the forgiveness that really is the challenge, the big spiritual challenge. I've analyzed it very carefully, and then what they don't remember with Jesus, it was the jealousy, it was the envy of the Jewish religious leaders who wanted him killed, because it took away from their power. It was jealousy, envy, and they don't talk about it as much as the darkness of envy and jealousy.
Absolutely, yeah. As a matter of fact, one there is this story. One day, someone asked Chico was one of his most feared, and he's talking about feelings, human being feelings, and then he mentioned that envy.
And
envy was
I'll tell you,
an ugly, and he was very much aware how powerful that
it's very
ugly energy
powerful
can
and ugly and just. And I'll tell you, as a father, seeing my son suffering through this divorce and telling him about forgiveness, and I'm trying to forgive my ex-daughter-in-law. You understand in all this. It's with the great love I have for my son, and I see the anguish he went through, and yet I'm trying to forgive his ex-wife. Forgiveness is such a powerful, complex issue to learn and have spiritual discipline on. And yes, envy, jealousy is so dark.
Yeah. Thank you, Len. Gloria, please.
I want to go back to the 3 wizard kings for a minute. I read something recently that, what I've been studying is various meanings of the word love. And one of the ones that I read about recently was presence and awareness. God is love. God is presence and awareness. In other words, it's very difficult for me to language mystical things. And so I've been working on that one, presence and awareness. And I think the educated wizard kings, they could study the prophecies and they could intellectualize about them just as we can with things that we're learning. And yet, what Jesus said was very profound. What he said to his mother, what I got out of what he said to his mother is, I'm connected with my Father.
Yes.
I'm connected. I live in that presence and consciousness, and I'm aware. And I don't have to be pushing myself to be this great thing in the court of the Jewish doctors or whatever. I know from being connected and aware and awake to God's presence that to humble myself is to elevate myself. And I will study to be a carpenter, because that is favorable in my Father's eyes, not the ego of these men who are here. And those three kings, as learned and studied, and their awakeness wasn't like Jesus's, which was a direct connection. It was on and off. And so they made these human mistakes. This is just me processing this. And if they had been continually connected to the Father like Jesus was, they would have known to keep their mouth shut when they went to Herod. But they didn't. And so it cost all those babies not anything that Jesus did,
Precisely,
God
yes.
did. It was the fact that the kings weren't awake and connected and flapped their mouths. And then the envy and power of the king cost all those lives. God didn't have anything to do with that. Jesus didn't have anything to do with that. That was man not being awake, not being connected, wallowing in materialism and power. And anyway, coming back to where I started, excuse me for this rambling.
You nailed.
is that this concept of love as presence and awareness is very powerful for me. And yet we're told that it's not this way that we connect, it's this way that we connect. And Jesus was doing that with his mother. He was compassionate with her because he was connected with the Father, and yet he could see that his mother was very concerned about him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was compassionate to his mother, which is what God is with us.
Yeah, hold that point, because next Saturday I'll bring something about it. And yeah, very nice, very well said. Thank you, Gloria. George, please.
Okay. Well, I was going to comment on the forgiveness statement made slightly earlier. I did write something about forgiveness myself. Would it be possible to read it to you?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, I'll just get to it again. All right, I had it up on my screen. I won't be sorry.
Do you want to share the screen?
Yeah, okay. Right, here it is. Reclaim your power through forgiveness. A simple way to take personal responsibility for your life and living it from a field of all possibilities. A look at empowering yourself through the concept of forgiveness. Forgiveness is a wonderful gift that we have been given to recenter our energies within ourselves. For as long as we blame another for our current situation, we are disempowering ourselves. Mm-hmm. Forgiveness is a state of mind. You can choose to forgive someone at any time just by saying the words, I forgive you, and saying the person's name if you know it. Quite often, you feel the release as you do this and feel your energies coming back home to yourself. You can also forgive yourself for all the people you may have wronged or hurt. Self-forgiveness is even more important than forgiving another. This is because we find it difficult to love ourselves if we are blaming ourselves for some event that may have happened in our life. This process is all about putting you back in the driving seat of your life, recentering your energy in the now moment. That means not thinking about the past or future, but being aware in this moment, knowing that all possibilities are open to you within this moment. It is also about being the creator of your life and choosing your own mood direction. If you center your energy on your heart and come from the area of love that is within your heart, you will feel the direction to take. Know also that you are not separate from this world. It is all a part of yourself, and on some level within you, you know this connection. Therefore, give out what you would like to receive. Okay, that was my little passage on forgiveness.
Yeah, very nice, because I can correlate that with what Gloria just said, presence and awareness. I mean, in order to forgive somebody else, first we need to learn how to forgive ourselves. And this is, yeah, is an awesome input as well. Very well said. Thank you. I thought somebody else had something to say. Was that you, Lynn, or?
Yeah, let me just add something too. You got to use your own love, the power of love, to help you with the forgiveness. I think that's very important, that love to help you with the forgiveness. I communicate with many entities on the other side 24/7, day and night, constantly. And one thing they're always hammering to me, forgiveness, son. Remember that, forgiveness. And I always say, I got it. I got it. Okay. But that's a real big theme that comes through. And I say, I got it. Okay. I understand.
Easier said than done.
I got it. Okay. They hit me over the head, all the time. Forgiveness. I got it. Okay, we're good.
Good spirits around you. Because
like my mother, like one day my mother told me, forgiveness is divine. And I said, yes, it's divine. It's not for me.
But there's something interrelated with that. Forgiveness, yes, but what about forgetting? Then you have to, do you forgive and then do you forget? See, that's now you're going down the rabbit hole here. Now you forgive. Yes, okay, we have the power of love to forgive. I got it. But then do you forget?
Mm-hmm. That's
a tough one.
Yes, it is. Indeed, very well said. Thank you. Leda, please.
This thing with forgiveness that the spirits tell you, Len, is because it's a chaos in the spiritual world because of not forgiving. Because these spirits that don't forgive, they will be obsessed about it, and they will be on the people who are here on earth and influencing and wanting their revenge over and over, and it doesn't stop. So that's why we got in this vicious circle of hate, and we go anywhere because we are in this vicious circle of hating each other, So if you forgive, you break the circle. If you forgive, you open a path for yourself to evolution,
That's a very good point. The thing is, though, if you don't forgive, it's like a cancer inside. It will eat at you, and so you have to let it go.
It's a poison.
It's really challenging.
It's a poison that you take first. You're trying to give to that person, but you have it. And Gloria put a very nice comment here. She said that a friend gave me this. Forgiveness is giving up the demand that the past be different than it was. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. It's the ego trying to control. Yeah, thank you. Luis, please. You're on mute, Luis.
What we've been learning here today is that no matter how spiritual, quote unquote, we can be, if we don't go through those pathways, which are very hard, difficult to go, just like Len is saying today, has been very happy to say these things, because if we can use spirituality to go away from these rules, from this ethics. I can be a spiritist and study how to grow onions in this astral city, and study this my whole life, and I will think that I'll be spiritualized because of that. It doesn't happen, right? If we don't touch those things, and many of us, what the spirits call moral escape, maybe in a rough translation in English, a moral escape. We do moral escape to go to our churches. We go to do moral escape, exercising mediumship. We do moral escape, lecturing about Spiritism. This is in my experience.
Yeah.
And back to what Lida was talking about, I've been here now more than 40 years experiencing spirit release meetings with all kinds of mediums here in Brazil. And the main topic is always forgiveness, because it's always the same story. The guy has a problem, maybe depression, or maybe this or that physical problem, but the origin is a guy that said, "Oh, you left me in the altar in the church, right? You were to be my wife, and then you left me, and I will, right, pursue you all your whole life. I won't let you get married." I remember a case was so strong. Maybe I have already told this case here. It was a woman. She said that when she started dating someone, okay, but when she went steady in that relationship, she started releasing a terrible smell. So I took her name, right, and put her name on the spirit release meeting, and the medium, I didn't speak to the mediums just not to influence them about information. The medium said, "Sergio, there is a spirit here. He's very angry, and he wants to speak to you." So the spirit came through, and he said, "I won't let her marry anyone. I, at the same time, hate her and love her. And I'm so attached to her that I have easy access to her hormones and glands." So when he said that, I identify, oh, that's the guy, right? Whenever she starts really going steady with someone, I would move those hormones in my finger because of revenge. So this is all the time, right? And many times a family member discarnate, right? And he discovers lots of truths that he can't just bear to know about, because, when you get out of your body as a dead person, quote unquote, you will see many things that you cannot see in the physical world. What your friends usually think about you, what someone in your family will usually think and consider you. And sometimes even at the graveyard, you already start having this kind of, wow, that person that I thought loved me, it is not the case. So if you're not prepared with a forgiving heart, the passing away is already a great transformation for you to face the music,
Yeah, great discussion. And by the way, I relate that to what George mentioned, about forgiving ourselves, and what Gloria mentioned in terms of trying to make the past a bit different. And I remember what Chico said once, you cannot, several people said that, but what I remember was from Chico, that you may not change what you've done, but certainly you can forgive yourself by changing your future, changing your attitude today, and as a consequence, changing how that story will end, right? So you can make a new end for that story that began so badly. Gloria, please.
We take our memories and our love and our regrets with us to the other side.
Yep.
And recently, I think you were on that Zoom, Carol. Before my mother died, she wanted to call the whole family in to apologize in front of the whole world for things that she'd done. She was just filled with regret. And she came through recently for the first time through a medium in Scotland. And she's still just so full of regret. How can I help her? Because I forgave her a long time ago. In fact, I'm grateful to her now because the challenges that she presented during my lifetime, they all grew me. And I like the entity that's messing with the woman's hormones, what could that woman have done? What can I do to, I've already forgiven, and yet she's got all these regrets on the other side. What do I do?
Thank you. Very nice. So I will let Luis mention that because,
please.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I missed a piece of the story, but I think what happened to that woman, just as an example, is that we treated the spirit for 2 or 3 meetings. And that's why I ask you, Americans and foreigners, try and make spirit release meetings. They are wonderful because the guy was sent to the right place. And the woman, I think the woman got married and he was her first son, right? So it was a story of forgiveness.
Wow.
Of course, a very attached son to the mother, right? Jealous of his father. But Freud explains a little bit of that, but not deeply as deep as. But the point is, if you did your job, okay, you did your job, right? But a group like this, for example, I'm taking on a very serious account because people here are getting a very good level of awareness in the sense you can pray for that woman so that the higher spirits can interfere and, appease her heart and her mind so that she can open, right, a door for help to herself, right? And the point is, the problem, Jesus Christ said that something, of course, when you measure someone, the measure you use, you will be measured by that. So karma is also relative in the sense, if you're a very merciful person, life is going to be much easier. But if you're not, if you're a legalist person, a person who's very hard on others, that's the way. And the problem is, we have, there's a parable by Jesus Christ that said about the talents, right? That the guy, he owed about 1,000 talents, well, 10,000 talents. This is a fortune, an unpayable thing, right? And he asked for forgiveness to his Lord. No, Lord, please forgive me. I cannot pay. The Lord was, well, no, I want your wife. I want your farm. I want everything from you. Because, no, please. And the Lord forgave. This man that was owing the Lord so much money, he left the place and he met someone who was owing you a little change. And he sent the guy to prison because of that. So that is the situation of our spirit. We've been here on earth for thousands of years. And we have lots of wrongdoing inside us. When you decide not to forgive someone, you are making all this wrongdoings for thousands of years coming crashing in your soul. So that's how dangerous it is for us not to forgive. To understand? And what the spirits do in the spirit release, what do? They get surrounded, they surround the spirit and they teach them about reincarnation, because sometimes they even don't know about this and don't believe this. And then now I'm going to take you to the point where you did something to deserve what you suffered in your last experience on earth. These moments are very strong, emotionally speaking, because the guy said, I don't believe I did that. No, yes, it was you. Now you can feel, you can recover the memory of that action. And this is a therapy. But if you don't have this kind of therapy, which is very useful for many people, I've seen many people healing, right? Things that no doctor was doing any effect in their treatment, and then the spirit release did. The one thing they can do is to say this. If someone can talk to this woman and say, look, forgive yourself. It's from now on, right? Because one thing we do when we are lazy, morally lazy, we prefer not to forgive ourselves because we know that we need to do to make an effort to get there. Because God gives us the chance to rebuild our mistakes, to fix our mistakes by working. And not, there's a sentence in the Spirit's book that I like very much, right? It's better for God if you lose a finger, little finger, in the service of others, than staying 10 years in bed to pay your karma, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is beautiful. Love causes over a multitude of sins, as you were saying.
As a matter of fact, that's exactly what I was about to say, that came to my mind. Sorry, Elena, it's going to be quick. Gloria, I am in the same, or I was in the same situation as you regarding to my father. So, except that I didn't have the same kind of, messages you had or news, but I remember sending a lot of love, not only saying my father that I forgive him, I forgave him. I was sending him my gratitude. I told him many, many times that I was so grateful for my life, for he made possible for me to live, to really, exist, and also for the education he provided me, and for all the things that, like you said, forged me. So I was grateful, and I was sending him those energies, gratitude and love. But also, when I know what happened to him was at some point he had some access to a rescue. He was rescued, and I was then taken to visit him to this place, and then I saw him, and he was still in treatment, but I will not describe the experience, but I will say that because of that, so now he had access to a treatment, so he had company of good people, good spirits with him, and I noticed that he started working, like what Luis said, and that was making him to release a little bit, and he started working for the family. So he was taking care of his kids, and it was a very nice thing, because it was like telling him, hey, nothing really ended. Why are you regretful for? You still have time. Oh, by the way, you have all the time in the whole universe to continue and do and undo the wrongdoing. So yeah, it was that was my experience, and perhaps, yeah, sorry.
Yes, I was just talking about it too. We recently read a book about Xavier in an intimate talking that he speaks under a tree, and he wouldn't speak it, I think, for many people, but he almost say that We have karma only because we are in a primitive planet, because we are very primitive, and we don't forgive, we don't love. He almost say that the loving worlds doesn't have karma because they are merciful, they have mercy. Of course, they have tests, they have proofs to evolve, but they don't have karma as we have here. That's because we have a heavy judgment that we put on others and we put on ourselves, that we have this karma that we have here. Saint Peter, we used to say that, Peter in the Evangelion, forgive others and be loving. The love
Covers a multitude of sins.
Yes, covers a multitude of sins. So there is no this kind of judgment that we think we have here in this world.
Yes, by the way, just before the send it to land, the word forgiveness in, I think, almost all languages in the world has the word give.
Yeah.
In Portuguese is perdoar, perdonare, for donation, right? And you have to give yourself, forget about it.
Not forgiving is so powerful that it could undermine all the other spiritual traits you're trying to develop in your spirituality, all the forms of love, compassion, gratitude. Now, just getting back to what Gloria said about people on the other side not forgiving themselves. It's throughout our books. Felicia and I, my wife, we have a real relationship in every conceivable way of communication. She's my life. She's the air I breathe. But there were things that we discussed through the years that she automatically forgave me, because I know it's hard to believe, but I acted like a jerk at times too. And I know it's also hard to believe that there were times that Felicia wanted to put a pillow over my face while I was sleeping at night. I know that's very hard to believe, but so, a very Latino culture, the Italians, she wanted to put a pillow over my face while I was sleeping at night. Yeah, right. You got it. Okay. I know that's hard to believe. So she forgave me about so many things. And then I discussed things that she forgave. We both forgave each other. In other words, with communication. That's so important. So there must be a way, Gloria, that is it your mother on the other side that she's not forgiving? Communication, maximizing communication with the various people involved can help. It helped Felicia. It helped me. You know what I'm saying? But you got to talk. You got to communicate. That's so important. But I mean so all that communication that Felicia and I had through the years, we both forgave each other, and it's beautiful. Once you reach that state of you've forgiven each other, it's a beautiful state to be in. So.
Yep. Very well. Very nice said. Thank you, Lynn. Guys, 4:21 here in Houston, and I'm pretty sure it's late everywhere in the globe.
Well,
but it was a great discussion today.
Is invited to my house. I'm making homemade pasta with my marinara sauce, red sauce, and I'm doing garlic shrimp bruschetta as an appetizer.
Oh, wow. So, bruschetta, I love
so you're all invited. A lot of wine.
I will forgive you. I will forgive you.
Exactly, right. There'll only be a lot of love, a lot of great drink, and a lot of great food. You're all invited. So come on.
Wait a little bit, right? We'll take.
Do you like Italian food? Do you like Italian food?
Well, yes. my last name is Marotta.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Good homemade pasta. I'll make it.
Great discussion, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next Saturday. So, Elisa, welcome to the group. We are a little bit crazy, but that's okay. You will get there.
It's a good crazy. It's a loving crazy.
Yes.
It was very good. Thank you.
Thank you all, and have a nice holiday.
Yes, good holiday.
Yeah. Everybody be safe.
Yes. Bye.